Brennan Goo Goo.
Good, hey.
So, fun fact, I cannot make a tea in 1 minute and 26 seconds.
I didn't think you could, but
No, I know.
You tried.
Well, I tried. But I did do something. I did something very exciting today.
Like, what was that?
As our friends know, it has been a long time since we have had our weekly TikTok compilation because Facebook was kicking us off because because those TikToks would have snippets of other audio, and so nonetheless, we today I made a TikTok video for tonight.
Deadly.
It brought so much joy. It brought me so much joy.
How much time did you spend going through finding TikToks?
About an hour earlier in the day, and then about 40 minutes tonight, probably.
Oh, that's good.
Yes.
It's not bad. I was expecting double that.
It was excellent. Lana, hello, Lana. Welcome.
Good evening, Lana.
I just asked if there was a late start, but we started on time, I think.
I think so, yeah.
I think so. So maybe
my thoughts are back.
Lana being the first commenter maybe makes her she might pick up the top fan badge tonight.
Oh, dang.
She was very, very upset that Corey had that last week. And yeah, it is. How was your week, my friend?
It was all right. I feel like I got a little sick or something from my aunt's funeral. Like I left and the throat was bothering me a lot.
Oh goodness!
I felt like I had the flu, but other than that, it was good. I got a lot done. We got a lacrosse season started up, and so yeah, I got our first U13 practice on Wednesday. We had a meeting for the CEC team. I got some interest there. Got a couple guys that never played before, so that's super exciting.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's looking. I'm excited to get back in lacrosse. I think our first senior game is this week, Thursday. Yeah.
And so when you're coaching.
Yeah, I'm coaching the 13 and under team for Truro.
Okay.
And I'm also coaching the high school team for CEC.
Awesome. For our friends who don't know, Brennan Goo Goo is a fantastic coach and lacrosse player himself, and was an elite player when he was a younger fella. And he looks young, but he's not a younger fella now. Now he's in his, as I point out to Simon, you guys are now in your mid to late 20s.
I'm near my 30s, man. Oh my goodness.
But you're officially in your late 20s. Simon, in fairness, is still in mid 20s because he's 26, right? But you are now officially in your late 20s.
Yeah, September I'll be 28, man.
Holy Moses, eh? I have I'm looking at your birthday present right now.
Oh, nice. Let's go.
Well, in fairness, it was your Christmas present. And I actually, the funniest part, this is not a lie. This week, I ordered your Christmas present for this year, even though I have not, in fact, given you. Where did I just see it? Do you want to see your Christmas present?
May as well.
Because there's a very good chance that I'm not going to mail it. So
I'll probably drive down and pick it up at some point.
Yeah, you'll probably get it in person. Hopefully, I'll bring it.
I would love to drive down that way. I have never done it.
I can't even say that. I'll bring it to Paris. That's what I'll do.
Oh, that would be sweet.
That's what I'll do. And
I'm still a baby.
Pardon me?
I agree. I still feel like a baby, Lana.
Do you?
I definitely feel, yeah.
Well, you look like you're 11 teens, so I really dislike that about you. Yeah, it just drives me bonkers. JJ got a new haircut, and got like a British or Irish gangster kind of look haircut.
Oh, like what's that Matthew McConaughey movie?
Like that, yeah, like the short on the side. It looks fantastic, like it really does. But he does kind of look like a actor from like one of those movies, without a doubt. Yeah, like but old school, right? Like old school, like
Peaky Blinders.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's deadly.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lana points out you're still a baby. Lana, yes, related to us, he certainly is, without a doubt. what did I do this weekend? Oh, the search for a new home for Three Things Consulting continues. And I went and looked at another place. It's I because there's not like a serious time crunch. It's not next week, right?
Mhm.
It is like sort of difficult in the sense that like I saw the place and I was like it was nice. It was a nice place. It was well cared for. I just like it's not the right fit. And I was thinking to myself after, I'm like, in a month from now, that's going to be the right fit. Or 2 months, like I'm going to be like, that's the right fit. For those who don't know, our house / office is relocating this summer, and so the hunt continues for the best fit for the House of Dysfunction and Three Things Consulting. I think we're going to have some new folks join us tonight who haven't probably stopped by here ever before, and that has to do with how really lucky we are that in a little bit we're going to welcome and meet a new friend named Emily, and we're going to talk tonight about the Boycott Loblaws movement that is spreading across the country. So we're going to chat about that. And interestingly, last week we talked about it in relationship to the frozen vegetables. And so it sort of seemed right timely that this conversation is exploding from an individual level. So there's Phoenix saying, again, I'm not young enough or cool enough to be able to pronounce that correctly, but like the let's go message, and we certainly will. And so one of the things is that this show, just for folks who are never tuned in before, we started this, Brennan, 4 years ago.
That's crazy, yeah.
It is crazy. And it's now been longer than 4 years. And the idea was that as First Nations folks who we work with, young people in communities, and our work is anchored in a deep understanding of teachings that have allowed our people to thrive and survive for thousands of years. And so part of it is that this space, we really started to talk about mental health and wellness in those first weeks of the pandemic. Because if we think back to that time, like it was very scary. It was and I probably shouldn't have watched that Contagion movie the first week of the pandemic.
It was trending on Netflix. It was #1 too. I remember that.
And I got suckered into it. And I was like, oh no. But we did it to be able to create a space where we could stay connected and linked to our circle. And from that, now almost 200 episodes later, we continue to sit and share really cool stories. And important stories. And so tonight's conversation is certainly important, and we're going to get to it without a doubt. But we just want to make sure that we let you know we're just so grateful to always, whenever we have new folks come on, and often our guests bring the crowds with them, right? The folks that they already have in their circles. And so welcome. You're very welcome here. And we're really, really grateful, not just that Emily's going to join us, but we're grateful that there is this opportunity when someone does something, they do one little thing and it creates this ripple, because that's as an important part of this story. Like, so, and we'll hear from Emily about when she created that subreddit, but the beauty is that it's that ripple that is able to happen, because like we all are in desperate need of feeling connection, and that connection is so critical. It is connection allows us to feel like we belong. Connection allows us to understand that we matter in this world, and connection allows us to understand that we're important in this world and in this space. And those are the three things, just so folks know, that are there. It's a message we've been sharing with communities and young people for many, many, many years, and that's that you matter, you're important, and you belong. And so we're excited to always, whenever we have guests come on, welcome the friends from their circle. And it is so that's sort of it. This week, we did have an opportunity to start a very cool project, Brennan, and I don't know what it's going to look like yet. But as you know, we are still working towards bringing a delegation of Indigenous athletes to Paris, young people, 14 to 21. Well, the two groups, right? The emerging
21 now. Oh,
well,
right.
yes, emerging
Yeah,
athletes, the 14 to 17-year-olds, and then a group of elite Indigenous youth athletes who are like 18 to 21. And we're hoping that we're going to bring them to Paris to experience and witness sport excellence, Indigenous excellence at the Paris 2024 Games. So we should know in the next 2 weeks if that's going to be able to move ahead or not. We're getting closer and closer and closer. But we're also going to start doing some work here in this region around healthcare and being able to meaningfully create Indigenous spaces and healthcare spaces. And so that project is starting next week. And I don't know what it's going to look like yet, but I've got some really cool visions in my head of like folks like Jaylene and Dakota and Mance and others creating these beautiful pieces of teachings and art combined and being able to take those pieces and have them in health spaces where those teachings will help shape how healthcare is provided in this country, particularly to our relations, right? Who so often are, you go into a healthcare space and you have no guarantee of what your experience is going to be like. And so Carol says she's looking forward to this conversation. And so I think there are a lot of people who are waiting for it. So maybe we'll start a little bit earlier. But Carol, let Charlotte know that I did in fact eat cookies for dinner. So thank you for those. I had some cookies delivered to my lap and I accidentally ate them all for dinner. And I took one of them and put a chocolate in between and ate it.
That sounds like a super good supper.
It was pretty. That's the beauty of being an adult, right? And yeah. Oh, and look at this. Oh, yeah. So Lana says, speaking of healthcare, I was at Walmart today. There's going to be a medical clinic opening in there. I saw that.
Wow.
Like a walk-in clinic? Like a walk-in clinic at a number of different pharmacies across the country, or across the province. Sorry. But why don't we welcome our friend Emily into the screen? And how are you doing, Emily?
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's great to meet you.
Likewise.
Yes.
I apologize. It's a little chaotic in my house right now. I've got my kids running around, so.
Good medicine. Don't even worry about it.
Right.
It is beautiful medicine. We're super excited to meet you. And I really, so we'll have you introduce yourself in a second. I just want to go even further. My greatest fascination with the opportunity to unperson about something and then a series and create extremely powerful change. I think that is really the most amazing thing. And I've seen it happen in lots of spaces and places, both as more so probably in my younger life as an activist and in my older life as an advocate. And so what you were able to do, one thought, one idea, to rally people together. And from what I've been witness to, and the reason we wanted to have you join us tonight is in the way that you have approached this very serious conversation and in this really good way. What I have thoroughly valued is the absence of aggressiveness, of name calling, of like you are wanting, if I'm this is my presumption and you can correct it, but wanting to send a message that matters and that is significant and will be one that is done in a way where there is dignity and respect. And it's certainly been my experience and our experience here that when creating change, there is space for those conversations. So I don't know if that's an accurate assessment, but that's sort of my take on what I've seen in your posts, in the language that's used in the collective, and in the messaging. So welcome, Emily Johnson. Welcome.
Thank you so much. And I'm so glad that that comes across to outsiders, because I always kind of think, I hope that we're being kind, and I hope that we're being inclusive, and I hope that we're able to bring different voices to the table, particularly the voices that are usually left behind on movements like these. And so to hear that feedback that people are saying, it looks like it's inclusive, and it looks like it's positive, and it looks like it's, kind and respectful, and holding others with dignity is absolutely what I want to hear. So thank you so much for saying that.
And to what you said too. Oh, sorry, Peter.
Go.
Like you're lifting up, you're giving voices to the people who weren't being heard before. Right? Did you have a lot of people like kind of coming to you before, like previously, or like were you hearing a lot of chatter around or anything about this, or was this just something that you were noticing? Kind of just what did that community look like then compared to where it does now?
So when we first started, you're gonna laugh, we were actually just kind of a meme sub. I had seen a post on the Ontario subreddit, and it was a picture of a holiday planter, and I mentioned that in my bio, and it was some sticks and some ribbon, and it was $85. And the user who had posted it had said, "Loblaws is out of control, holiday edition." And that was just the smoking gun for me. I was like, I'm gonna make a sub for this. This is gonna be great. And so I kind of just intended it to be a fun space to share memes, crazy grocery bills, screech into the void collectively. And when we saw that Loblaw was announcing they were removing the 50% off stickers in their stores and reducing it to 30%, people lost their minds, and we saw exponential growth almost overnight. So many people were flocking to the sub, and we were kind of like, oh no, I got to get some more moderators in here. And then again, we saw another big wave of growth when we had the Manulife deal announced, and we started to see natural conversations cropping up of, we as consumers need to do more together, and we should be looking at boycotting. So our team kind of felt it was our job to organize a boycott, and here we are, 57,000 members later.
Now
good for you guys.
And if I'm not mistaken, in my older years, that deserves the let's go, right?
Let's go, yeah.
Let's go.
So that is absolutely amazing. One of the things that I think what I'm intrigued by this conversation is that it is consumers, right? It is people, individuals.
Mm-hmm.
The government called these CEOs to Parliament repeatedly now, right? The government is whether they have attempted or not attempted. I don't want to jump into that pool, but they've certainly brought these CEOs to the table to push back, to encourage, and I will assume at some point discipline in some way or regulate something or other. But the reality is that it is going to be consumers who are going to be the ones who can create this shift and change. And so this is, I believe this matters. I don't know what this means, but I use Reddit. I should be clear. I use Reddit, but I had to, like, when writing the intro for this the other day, I had to clarify what a sub was. In my life, sub has meant something very different. So it is a yeah.
Whatever floats your boat, buddy.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too. I mean, Loblaws owns the largest market share in the country in the grocery industry. I believe they have a store within 10 kilometers of 90% of Canadians, and they had the audacity to tell the government, "We're not signing your grocer code of conduct." Right. So to have a corporation sit down and say, "No, actually, we don't want to sign this," and the government saying, "Well, please do this because we're going to legislate it otherwise," and we're still, a few months later, nothing has happened, right? So I find that to be frustrating.
Yeah, well, and most certainly, right? It is this. It is this very weird, like it, like so that whole chain and that company, and it is a multinational, right? It is a multinational. The reality that they are so resistant, and I think there was a couple of others that were equally resistant, right? There were several that signed on, correct?
Everybody except for Loblaw and Walmart have signed on.
Yes, yeah, and and the difficulty is that there is a real sort of message that that sends, which is why I think it's worthy. A lot of people have talked about, well, if you boycott Loblaws, and we'll come to this conversation shortly, but if you boycott Loblaws, there's Sobeys, there's this, and I should have a disclaimer that I've worked for Sobeys, like nationally, like they've been, because they've worked and they've been doing work around Indigenous relations and building capacity of their board, in fact, of their understanding. They've been doing very, very exciting work around elevating Indigenous producers and in their spaces and places. So I should just put that there. But at the end of the day, all of these three big chains, Loblaws, Sobeys, and is it Metro? Is that the actual, or is it something
Their
else?
parent company is Sobeys Empire. Sobeys is Empire, and then Metro is their own.
Metro is a separate one, right?
Yes.
And Metro
Yeah.
also owns then 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 subsidiaries as well, correct?
Yeah, like Food Basics and that sort of thing.
So the reality is that there's these three chains, and so people have said, well, if you boycott this, then you're just going to go to another one. But I think the reality though is that this is what you've done is been able to deliver a message that hopefully consumers get on board with and say hold off if they can. Because I think there's also some limitations, right? What are the limitations when we think about this boycott?
Well, I mean, for some folks, there are disability and mobility concerns. Like I just mentioned, Loblaws has a store within, 10 kilometers of 90% of the population. And so it's very difficult for people to get involved. And, that's a big part of why we're doing what we're doing. A lot of people don't have any other options, which is kind of ridiculous because now you can charge whatever you want, right? And your options are Real Canadian Superstore or No Frills. So there's no real healthy competition available. And to kind of touch on the later point that you had made, talking about the other grocers that exist, we're also doing a lot on our end as a community trying to educate folks on the other options outside of the big five grocers. One of our users in the community has created a crowdsourced website called altgrocery.ca where it lists all of the different non-big five grocers across the country. We've even got options listed up in the territories, out on the east and west coasts. It's really, really cool, and there's a space for you to actually submit your own listings that you'd like to be included.
Awesome. That is fantastic.
I was like, we get it. Loblaws is not the only problem. They just happen to be the biggest problem. And it's our hope that if we go after the biggest problem, the rest will fall in line. Or we just boycott them too.
Well, and I think there is that path, right? So that alt grocery, I'm just looking at it right now online here, right? And so I think this is very exciting. This is very, very exciting. It is ironically, I see the provinces, but I don't. Oh, you got to swipe maybe? Oh, there we go. I'm like, there's no Ontario. How exciting.
I think it starts on Alberta.
Yeah, so I see it now. And so this is really exciting because I think that is part of it is how to help folks find these spaces, find the farmer markets, right? Find these alternatives. But I do wonder how we can, because one of the realities, like I'm looking at Kingston now, just where I am here, and so there is a local grocery store near me, it says, and that's the Berryfield Meat Market. So I think that's what they're referencing, if I'm not mistaken, on this list. So but you go into the Berryfield meat market, and I love going there. Like I've been there, I think every Christmas turkey for the last 6 or 7 years has been from there. But I want to be frank, the Christmas turkeys there are not the turkeys that everyone can afford. So, and or the meat there, like it is a butcher shop, right? And so although it's local, I don't think there's a lot of bargain butcher shops in the country. Like I don't think because they're this niche sort of space, right? So part of it is helping folks and helping some of these independent grocers figure out how are they responding to inflation. And I've been writing about this for the last month or so, this conversation, right? And one of the things I think that has occurred is this inflated inflation. Like inflation is real, and across the board, people have experienced it. Regardless of like where someone sits economically, everyone has experienced inflation in the last 2 years. The most vulnerable, of course, have experienced it at the greatest levels and the most significant levels, where real serious decisions and choices that, in fact, for them, I think from my conversations with our relations who are in these spaces, I listen to them, and I think if I go back and look at stories coming out of the Depression, it's very similar, like around the decisions and choices that people have to make for their families. And that, I think, is significant. And so when we think about how do we actually, I guess the question I've been mulling in my head this weekend is, how do we help independent grocers, and not the store, but independent grocers, and these niche spaces, right, to not follow suit with these larger chains by that inflated inflation, right? So charging higher prices because we can, because the market is setting these prices, right? So if beef is going to be X amount per pound, and I'm providing premium beef, so I'm going to give it this extra and then this extra. So how do we get these independent grocers to be more accessible? And is it possible? Because I don't know the answer to it yet.
I mean, I'm not exactly an economist myself, but I would kind of think in basic principles, if there's competition and healthy competition and that, stability across the board, like stability in business, I don't feel that some of these more niche grocers would have to charge as much, right? I always thought about this like as a kid, well, why doesn't that gas station just lower their prices by like 5 cents, and then everybody's going to go to that gas station and pay more, right? So when there's healthy competition, I think it opens the door to being able to kind of lower those prices and make up for maybe some of the things that fluctuate within the market that bigger businesses like Loblaw can just kind of ride out and limp through, right? Just, when it's me and, a friend running a shop, I have to be a lot more careful about what I charge and what I'm making and what my staff are making than, say, Loblaw is, because they have a lot more capital behind them.
Yeah.
I'm also just a nut for buying local, so I'm like, just buy local anyway.
And for that too, like if people like say like over a span of 10 years are buying more and more and more local versus the other places, like hypothetically they should be able to recoup benefits by offering lower prices, right?
I would hope so. And I mean, like out in my area, I'm out in Milton, so there are tons of farms. Like I'm just so thankful to have so many different farms available to me. And I find that a lot of them charge very comparably to what I would see at Real Canadian Superstore or at Longo's, right? And I get that those are a little higher end versus, say a No Frills or a Walmart. But the fact that they're still relatively comparable, I think in my mind it says there are so many people who are able to go to these places and support these places with their business, so they're able to ride that out and keep prices competitive.
Well, yeah.
Well, Bubba says here in Newfoundland local butchers are way cheaper and we are supporting local. So yeah, like maybe it's just geography. I know a lot of like old news here, like they'll kill a moose in their freezers full of meat, like the best quality meat for a whole year, and they're giving it out and all the time. And I know, like even at my family's house, like we don't hunt, but we have people in our family that do, and we always have deer meat, moose meat. And, from our community, the fisheries, they give out sometimes like scallops and stuff, and lobster, and stuff like
That's
that.
so
But
cool, and I love that the community can support each other like that too.
yeah, and so we're so privileged too, right, to have that. Like we're so lucky, and you see people utilize it for sure. Like, I mean, you buy lobster at Sobeys, that's your whole grocery budget right there. Like it's nuts. And
Well, and I think that is actually one of the conversations around when we talk about food and food security is about community, right? It's because I think the reality is that, and Paul's got this great comment here just around, like even those independent stores are buying from the same distribution companies as those bigger corporations, right? And also don't get the same benefits that those bigger corporations have. So when you go to Loblaws and you see a product on a certain shelf, there's Loblaws and that product have a deal with how much Loblaws is going to make from that company for having them on that shelf. Where when you're in a smaller space, you have you have a real difficulty. You don't have that option, right? That's not a so even so those bigger corporations have all of these other avenues for revenue generation, right? So even with those distributions, but he is right. But I think the reality is that there is that need to be figuring out around community, because even Lana says here, no frills is getting expensive now. Meat prices are ridiculous, and it is so true. It is the real and here and because the reality is though stores like No Frills, they and again I can't see the difference. I'm seeing less and less of the difference in prices there, right? And I want to be frank. If last week on the show we talked about, I went to an independent grocer which is owned by Loblaws, and it's in my neighborhood, and it's owned. Sorry, the store is actually owned by two individuals. I should be clear, because this is one of the things that we always have to remember in this conversation, that lots of these branded stores are in fact owned by an individual or individuals. So in my community, these folks own the store. That's a branded store that's branded to Loblaws, right? A franchise, right? And so it follows ABC regulations that they have to, which is in the franchise agreement. But those are two individuals, and my feeling is they don't have a lot of say in how this is playing itself out. But I went in there and I bought a bag of no-name frozen vegetables, the smallest bag. I was making a shepherd's pie with deer that was gifted to us, right? My freezer is filled with deer as well. Like Brennan, I'm much more a berry picker, and we're proud berry pickers. And so I was making some venison, some deer shepherd's pie, and I went to get the little thing. It was $4, $3.98. At No Frills, regular price, $1.99. So, or $9.98, whatever it is. So these two products are identical. And I can appreciate, and I'm almost very, Emily, you should know I'm moderate. Like I'm pretty middle of the road to drive some people nuts, but I try to keep an open mind, right? Like, and understanding. So I know that No Frills is called that because they have minimal structure. So you go into a No Frills, even the lighting is cheaper lighting than if you go up the food chain of the Loblaws brands, right? And so I can appreciate that. I'm not justifying their prices, but I know that when I go into No Frills, it's going to be less expensive because the infrastructure is less. Independent is a step up, right? But independent, to be able to increase their price by 100%, I thought was obscene. And I'll be frank, is that it's been a very long time since I was concerned about where I was going to get dinner. And I'm pretty privileged in the fact that I can shop without a lot of stressors. But as I've looked at my last year, my shopping habits have changed dramatically. And in fact, that same day, I had 2 cases of pop in my cart that I took out of my cart. Because I'm like, I am not spending $15 on 2 12-packs of pop. I just can't. I can't and I won't. And yeah, it is outrageous.
And you start to see, and you're not the only person who does this. It's just so many people are anecdotally realizing they have to make different decisions. Or, I had read stories of people having to eat their kids' leftovers and that sort of thing because they don't want to waste anything, which is great for the planet. But the fact that people have to be so much more conscious and almost hyper aware of their spending habits on something as essential as food is concerning to me. And I think that a lot of us have really gotten to enjoy the privileges of not having to stress about, cost of living. And, what's one thing that unites every single person in this cost of living crisis? It's food. Whether you're living in a mansion or a condo or a house, you're renting, you're in, an encampment, like we all eat at the end of the day. And that's the first thing that's going to affect all of us.
Yeah. Bubba says that $1.99 or the one deodorant $9.95 at Shoppers. Again, mind blown. Like absolutely when I see. So again, it's going to be very easy for me to in the month of May to not shop at these branded stores. And sorry, yeah, Brendan.
Sorry, you can finish.
And well, I was just going to say it's going to be very easy for me to do it because, interestingly enough, and this is Loblaws. I doubt you're listening, but if you are, I was pretty committed to Loblaws of all their brands, and I would drive to Loblaws because I enjoy their store. I liked them. Some of the people who work there I've known for 20 years. It is the best quality products of any of those chain stores. But during COVID, when we started seeing the inflation rise everywhere, I saw myself going there less and less and less. And I realized as well, Shoppers Drug Mart, where I would actively shop because I love points. I love points of people who watch this program regularly.
Me too. I love those optimum points so much.
And I would go there regularly, but I cannot pay $10 for a thing of deodorant that used to be on sale for $2.99. And not like used to like in my childhood, used to like 18 months ago or 24 months ago. And that's the struggle with this conversation is we're not talking about these increases aren't like in the olden days we paid this. We paid this like 30 months ago.
And I mean, people have pulled up flyers from early 2020, even just before the first wave of the pandemic. And we're looking at it like, oh my God, butter was $2.99. Are you kidding me? Out on the East Coast, they're paying like $9 for a brick of butter. Like, what is this?
It is outrageous, and there does need to be something. I don't have the answer, but the people who do, because what Lamb is writing here, right? Staples in families' homes, and no longer are they staples. And here's the challenge: is that a lot of stores lower on any of the corporate brands. Hello.
Can you say hi to everyone? Say hello. He's just very excited to be on.
So one of the difficulties is some of the quality goes down in some of those stores, depending on where they fit in a hierarchy of a corporate ladder, right? And it's not a secret. I'm not going to say any of their names currently so no one sues me, but some of those stores, the quality of meat, the quality of produce is less than. And so now I happened to be in a store recently and I saw that and I'm like, I am not paying this for this, but I also won't be it'll be easy for me. I did, in fairness, just so everyone knows, so that you know that I am still a human. They might have had soda pop on sale for $1.25 a bottle, and I do have a slight caffeine addiction. So I may have bought 60 bottles of diet soda this weekend.
It's not May yet, so you're fine.
Exactly, totally, and partly because it was inexpensive, right? And in a week from now, that $1.25 bottle is going to be $2.99 again. And I tell you what I did. I used the calculator on my phone and this is no joke. Costco was selling cases. Costco, because the prices are up everywhere. Costco, the 32 pack of Diet Coke was $15. Used to be $12.99, and on sale for $9.99. Like 4 times a year. Now it's $15.49, and I've been buying it there. And so I did the math. I took 32 cans times 355 mils. How much was that? I looked at the $2.99 cases a pop were on sale at Shoppers. Calculator out, how much was that? And the No Frills won for being the best deal at $1.25 for 2 liters. But that's the effort I'm going to go to. And I think the reality is that I do that because I want to save some money. But the reality is there's hundreds of thousands of Canadians and families who are having to do that because they have to do it.
And that's actually what I wanted to kind of add on to that point. Like, there are so many people who now have to do that, or, you know, look at the multi-buy deals where it's more expensive to buy multiple products. And we're kind of sitting there like, wait, what? Is this for real? And, you know, it's almost insulting. Like, do you think that us as consumers are that dumb, and that, you know, we are not going to pay attention to, you know, new packaging? I think I saw that on our sub today, the new KD packaging. And the only new thing about it was a new shinier logo, and they dropped 50 grams off of the package.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, we're covering up shrinkflation. We're covering up, you know, these multi-buy deals that aren't actually deals. And, you know, how can you justify this?
Yeah. And this part here is really important. Paul says people need to realize corporations are designed to make profits for their shareholders, not give customers better service. And there is fairness to that sentence. That is the intention, right? The intention of a corporation is to raise money, to make money, so their shareholders make money, and therefore, and et cetera, et cetera. And it is, though, the reality that corporations, when we talk about community, right, they're in communities, they have an opportunity, and I hope this is what they take away from this boycott, is they have the opportunity to be really meaningful parts of communities. If there's a Loblaw store within 10 kilometers of the majority of Canadians, they've spawned, and I don't know if they still do, but when I was a kid, I think I had a Loblaw soccer jersey maybe or something, or I don't know, but I shouldn't even say that because I played soccer one game and I peed my pants and I was like 5 and I never played again. So either way, the point being that they might do these things or those things here and there. And I don't doubt as well, because I look at this as the work we do. We know that they're charitable in certain spaces and places, but where they can really make a difference is being a genuine part of the community by recognizing that the profits that they are working towards are at the detriment and well-being of Canadians. And that's where the line is sort of crossed, I think. And your group has generated a series of calls to action, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, do you mind if we share a little video?
Sure, go for it.
So, for folks, again, who haven't watched lately, this, for the first 3 years of this program, my favorite activity every week was making a YouTube, TikTok compilations. And I would go on TikTok and you could find a compilation of videos. It didn't matter what the topic. We could have Olympians on here, Juno Award winners. We could have 14-year-old journalists. It didn't matter. We could find a group of videos that would go with the topic. Unfortunately, the music on TikTok videos started getting us flagged on Facebook. So we had to stop. But I have a special treat for you. So I did find your group's TikTok page, and it's absolutely fantastic. So I pulled a bunch of videos from there and a few others so that we could share your calls to action with folks. But also listen to the audio soundtrack. We strip all the audio now, and we very rarely do this, which is why I don't do it anymore, because it's so much effort now to strip all the audio from all the TikToks and replace them. But listen to the audio, if you will, because I made this for you, Emily, and all of your collective who is being really brave. I want to just really quickly, Paul says, what about the food deserts around boycotting chain stores? Many will have no place to buy food. And I think the reality is a lot of people won't be able to participate. And that is part of the conversation, is that's the issue, is that there isn't these other options and opportunities.
And so I don't know how much you've seen, but actually on our sub, we have posted a list of ways that you can support and can get involved in the boycott if you can't physically participate by not shopping at Loblaw stores, because we recognize that a big part of this is solidarity. And it's the people who can helping out and stepping in for the people who can't. So, we encourage folks to reach out to their local member of parliament. We even included a template letter for you to help send that off to make it super, super easy. Even a link to help you find your local MP so you know who you're sending it to for folks who don't know. We encourage people, if you are shopping at Loblaws, to use your optimum points as often as possible, focusing on loss leaders, so those items that draw you into the store, so that with the expectation that you're purchasing other items to kind of make up for those losses, focusing on the essential items. So not buying your deodorant at a Shoppers Drug Mart is a big one. But, please buy deodorant because we don't want stinky people, But, also sharing our message on the socials or sharing it with your circles, right? Because you may not be able to participate, but there may be other people who talk to you that do. And, even writing to Loblaw customer support and asking them to take our movement and what we're doing seriously. We got an email from Dave Bauer, the head of PR at Loblaw, earlier this week. So we're hopeful that some sort of conversation can come out of that.
Yeah.
At least something positive anyway. I totally got on a tangent. Please, I'd love to see this video.
There are tons of tangents. You'd never worry. Okay, so the first TikTok presentation of 2024, which is a sin because it's almost May. I do miss these, but this is just a sort of a snapshot. But listen to the soundtrack and see what you think.
Thousands of fed-up Canadians are planning to boycott Loblaws and other PC brand stores for price gouging. You hear that, Galen? We'll be getting price gouged at Sobeys from now on.
Hi, boycotters. We wanted to provide you with our updated list of demands. We created our original ones in the infancy of our community, but at this point, we've ballooned to over 55,000 members just on Reddit. So we believe that our demands should change and evolve as well to make sure that we're accurately representing all of our members and also to ensure that this has a positive outcome for our entire community. So our updated demands include signing the Grocer Code of Conduct, no further retailer-led price increases for 2024, no further increases to dividends, increased cross-transparency, for example, identifying the items that have undergone shrinkflation, a commitment to affordable pricing, example, price caps on essential items, and a commitment to ending price gouging with prices quickly reflecting the market.
I can't believe the price is rising, oh no.
I did.
On the food I need for surviving, oh. Loblaw's got their eyes all glammed up so sleek, but they're charging an arm and a leg, it ain't cheap. It ain't cheap. Canadians standing tall, we say no more. Boycotting Loblaws, showing them the door. They think we'll just keep on playing. No way, but we're fighting back. Gotta have our say. Food prices rising high, oh no. Canadians won't let it slide, oh no. Loblaws will take our shopping elsewhere. This boycott, we just don't care.
Are you feeling kind of sad, dude? Yeah, you're.
I just accidentally removed myself.
Whoopsies. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Oh my goodness. I was just seeing some messages pop up from my mod team. They're like, oh my God, Auntie, they're showing off your TikToks. She's absolutely killing it on TikTok right now. I do not do TikTok at all. And I was trying to start off with a bunch of educational content. And then she comes in here with these like amazing meme videos and just absolutely on fire. I think one of her videos has like over 500,000 views, and I was like, good for you. I have no idea what I'm doing here. So, yeah, and like I'm so fortunate to have such an incredible team as a part of this and helping me organize this, helping me like stay focused because, oh my goodness, it's like herding cats out there.
Well, it is fantastic. Her skill set is beyond belief in TikToks. Those were great. But did you like the song we created for you?
I love that song. You'll have to like send it to us. We're gonna send it out on our socials too.
Send you the song. It's one of the realities of increased prices, and this is so interesting because our friends from Brennan, can you tell us pronounce where this is from?
Wegobeg with Egyptueogun Society, I believe. I probably butchered that.
So these are our friends.
Someone will correct me in the comments.
So Brennan lives in Millbrook First Nation, and this is a newer food bank that opened maybe a year and a half ago.
Yeah, we had them on the show.
Yeah, they were on the show
just shortly after they opened, I think.
It was, and we're able to support them at that time. And one of the realities is that she said close. You pronounced you're close. Very good.
You did a lot better than I would have done.
Most certainly. So one of the realities is that across the country, and we've supported food banks on this program quite a bit, partly because it's just such a necessity now in this country. When the first food bank opened in the 80s, it was really meant to be this little quick, like short project to help in this critical time. And now they've become a necessity, and not just in Canada, but around the world. And I think it's important to recognize, sometimes we think about this as a Canadian context only. This is happening around the world. Like this, we are not unique in this. And as First Nations folks, particularly in the South, we have some privilege that, again, I live with every grocery store, farmer markets, farms, et cetera, nearby. One of the realities is the prices that Canadians are seeing across the country are still less than what some of the prices in the North have been for years. Like it is there's been a bit of me, and I don't know, Brennan, what your take is, but there's been moments where I've been watching over the last year and almost thinking like, well, this is what First Nations folks and our Inuit relations up north have been experiencing since the Hudson Bay Company came and set the tone for what commerce would look like. And you can go to a community where in this day and age, 4 liters of milk is $23. And so even the prices, and then their prices are also going up due to inflation, right? And they might not have the Loblaws in their community, but the reality is that the lived experiences of our northern relations have been this kind of price, like it's unmanageable.
Oh, it's disgusting. It's criminal, right?
It is.
And we spoke about, sorry, Peter, but we spoke about quality too earlier. Like they're also feeling that. Like they're paying exponentially more for even less quality than it was before. And it was already horrible quality going up there. Like they're already sending stuff that's expired. Like they're sending stuff that's like the lowest of quality. Like it's insane. Yeah. And
I mean, you and I could
horrible
complain.
as it is. Yeah. Like we're so lucky, right? Like,
yeah, like I was,
Like, sorry, yeah.
No, I was just going to say, like, you know, you and I could complain about the cost of bananas and, you know, how gross our bananas might be, but, like, add in all of that extra time to ship up north. I can't even imagine how awful that would be. Like you said, it's criminal.
And the fact that
$20 for milk, oh my God.
even like I would honestly be fine with these prices we're all dealing with right now if I knew that they were subsidizing northern prices, isolated prices in isolated places. If we were paying more to help that, then that would make sense to me. But like, they didn't even need to charge that much in the first place. It's so criminal. It's crazy. Yeah.
And so we do want to recognize that tonight and I know food banks are not the solution. Like, I'm aware, I'm not naive, but I also know that today they matter. And for those folks who boycotting a grocery store is negligible because they can barely go to a grocery store or can't. So we will, in recognition of yourself and your team, we are going to make, and in fact, we were going to do this already, to make a donation in your names to our friends at Millbrook, who are helping families in Millbrook and here in Kingston and in the Milton region. We'll find a third one as well and support that as well. So we'll make sure that this week we reach out to each of them and to recognize that this conversation we're having does go back to community. It's how we actually can support each other and help each other. I think it's important to recognize that food security and the insecurity, the level of stress that creates, and this is why I go back to where the corporations have to make a decision about what kind of member of the community they're going to be. Because when we look at issues around mental health and wellness, when we look at issues around addiction, when we look at issues around domestic violence, all of these are the stressors. These are the stressors that create ripe environments for these crises to take place. And it is a good community member figures out the role that they can play. I can't end those three things. And no pun intended. I can't end those three things. You can't, Brennan can't, but we can be good community members. And so I hope if folks from Loblaws are watching, right, and following along in the conversation, that they really take a look at how can they be, because Galen keeps trying, right? Like in the saddest way. Like, I'm like he really looks like he believes what he's saying, right? Like he's like, we're trying our hardest. And I'm like, no.
Here I am, super relatable.
Yes.
From my, $5 million home or whatever.
And I gotta be honest, I have no beef with this $5 million home even. Like, he runs a corporation with hundreds of thousands of employees, right? Like, that's serious. I won't even dig at him for that. This is the world we live in. Like, it's not great, but there are those folks who have great big responsibilities and they get paid way more than they'll ever need in their lifetime, right? And it's all that intergenerational wealth stuff, right? Like, it is, I can't take that on today. But what
we'd need a lot more time.
Exactly. But what I can take on, though, is how we can be putting pressure on folks like Loblaws in the month of May to really be a good community member. To recognize that the challenges that they're facing, many of them they've created, right? Like, they put those new security bars up, because people were shoplifting. Well, of course they're shoplifting because you've created a space where people can't afford food. Or you've created, and really actually it has less to do with that and more to do with those checkout counters, right? The checkouts.
But if you want to go down that road, and not to take too much time, but how many tens of millions of dollars have gone into those self-checkouts, have gone into implementing these receipt scanners and these big plexiglass walls. I mean, you have to pay a project manager, you have to pay these researchers, you have to pay all these staff, when the simple solution is pay a human. Just check this person out. Like, it's a simple solution.
Bubba says, sorry, the first comment is, be a member, save $5. Why? I'm a customer, right? And yeah, so it's it is because I do think so too. And I'm a customer piece applies in lots of areas. Like, I try hard not to use self-checkouts because the intention is to eventually reduce staff, which they said wasn't the intention 5 years ago, 7 years ago, but now we see it, right? And we're seeing it in all these places. I very rarely go to Walmart as a rule. It's not my kind of store, and for lots of reasons. And but I did go recently, and I was leaving the self-checkout because it was the only option available. There was one checkout line that was so long. And so I go to the self-checkout, and then the woman asks me for my receipt. And I said, no. And I said, I know you're just doing your job. Someone's told you to say this. And I said, but here's the thing. You can make the decision. I was holding 2 bags. You can either force me to show you the receipt for the money I just paid for these items, or if I can't leave without showing you the receipt, we'll just go back and return them all, each one. This is the choice, because your company has made me do this self-checkout. You can't then suggest that I'm stealing. And so I walked out. She let me walk out. Like, it is, and I was polite. I wasn't disrespectful. I wasn't it is just this reality that at the end of the day, if you're as a corporation, you're gonna try to save money in staffing costs, and you want to then create situations where people are uncomfortable, I won't shop where I'm uncomfortable. It's not complicated. And I certainly, so it is, and as Lana says, they can afford to pay a security guard, but not a cashier. Exactly, right? Bring on the so, but there is good news. I read that research is showing that these self-checkouts are horrific, right? And for business as well, for businesses, there is a Canadian Tire that's getting rid of all of theirs. And so there is, I think, this movement we're going to see, I think, a movement in that area.
Well, I mean, it seems like a natural switch for me. We talked about community, and I think a big part of why Loblaws has done so successfully in business for all these years is being that relatable community brand. They're out supporting, your soccer team. They're donating to food banks and all of these things. They've got all of these, fancy charities, and they've at least made it look like, they're our friends, right? And by having those self-checkouts, it just seems so inhuman. I walked into a Walmart the other day, and same deal. They've got the giant plexiglass, barriers. They've got the fancy gates that you have to go through. And I was like, am I in prison? Is that what it is right now? This just feels like a very dystopian 1984 kind of scenario. And I'm I don't think I want to shop here anymore.
Yeah. Exactly.
The prison point too, Walmart, you can't even use your cell phone in there. You could call 911 if you wanted to. I get service in Walmart.
That's just very concerning.
Your property of Walmart.
Yeah, it is. This May, I hope Canadians will see what you and your collective are working towards. I hope that Loblaws feels an impact around it, right? And I hope that they're able to come to a place where they say, okay, and I hope their board comes to a place. Because at the end of the day, Galen still works for that board. That is the reality. And so that their board says, we need to create a shift. There is a great, this hour has 22 minutes video. If you want to Google it, it's fantastic. The Galen Weston apology tour on this hour has 22 minutes website.
That's circulated on our sub a few times. I love it.
And I wish them all the best. I don't wish them any harm. at the end of the day, they're doing them, and he's probably doing what he was raised to do in essence, right? Because the Weston family is probably one of the closest things we have to a royal family in this country around like intergenerational sort of context, and not the only one, but like all these big corporations, not all of them, but many of them, right, that are family led. That's been their history, right? People are doing and behaving in the way that they've been raised, trained, and taught.
Oligarchies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so,
Irving.
pardon me.
Irving.
Irving, yeah, exactly, across the board. So hopefully they're able to say, you know what, this is affecting our pocketbooks. This will continue if we don't create a new path. And I don't expect that to be the case. And I'm optimistic as a human. Like some people in my life get really annoyed because I'm optimistic. I have hope, right? I can't live in a world where there is no hope. And exactly, like, this is so true. Making profits over people starving is not good business. And eventually the tide will shift fully, right? And it might be this May, maybe it's next May, but the tides are going to shift for these corporations and commercial chains. And as Paul mentioned, those distributors, like, because it's all the system that has to shift, right? And at the end of the day, I really hope, and this is one of the things that's what's really interesting is at the end of the day, maybe the farmers and the food producers will start to get their share, like where that they can benefit. Like, because right now in this country, in Western Canada, right, being a farmer has never been more difficult. And the reality is that, again, because these big corporations, right, and like, who owns the bread companies and the uses the wheat and the et cetera, et cetera. So hopefully there'll be a really fundamental shift and change. And the reality is, Emily, you one day, one click add subreddit. And I should point out, my sub joke earlier wasn't about me. It was just about what the word.
A friend. Absolutely a friend.
No. I was literally in the terminology I knew. I want to clarify that. I was like, oh my God, how did that get so wrong?
I'm sorry, I should not have been so mean on your show that you invited me to.
No, I was like, oh my God, that came out wrong. But the reality is that you clicked on this little keyboard, right? And it is just so very interesting. It is it's the beauty of change, right? And you work in addictions and mental health, correct?
Yes.
And that's the same path, right? It's the one moment, one person creates a path for other folks, and that's what this can be as well. So it is. It's been delightful to meet you, Emily. I hope that those calls are heard and acted upon, and little bit of me wonders if their PR team is looking at that list and figuring out what they can do even before Wednesday, right? Wednesday's May 1st. Is that Wednesday?
Yes, Wednesday.
I wonder, and then again, as someone who offers strategic advice to lots of folks, it would certainly be in their best interest to look at the list. They probably can't do them all by Wednesday, but it'd be interesting to see if before Wednesday they announce A, B, or C. And
Wednesday is also their AGM, so I highly doubt that we're going to hear anything before that. My guess is they'd like to have something to go back to the shareholders with, and then we'll have some sort of conversation. That's just my guess.
And was that just fluke luck?
I'm sorry?
Was that just that their AGM is on May 1st, or was that?
That was good luck. Our community voted on it. Oh my goodness, this crazy child. He's just really excited to be here.
As he should be.
Awesome.
As he should be. Well, that's excellent. That is awesome. So yeah, because that is impressive. It'll be a conversation at their AGM. Having attended
so.
many AGMs. Annual for folks at home. That's the annual general meeting. So it's when their shareholders are going to be on the internet and on the phone, listening to the reports from the year, listening to how much they're going to make, right, and what the threats and strengths of the next year are going to face. So
Isn't it basically when the board basically gets to say, like, here's how high you jump this year?
Kind of, yeah. Like to some extent, yeah. Like they'll set the tone, and yeah. So yeah. Well, I want to just thank everyone for joining us tonight. I do believe before we go, I need to find this post. Where is it here? There was a post from Mello. Where is it?
Oh yeah. No, my little cousins Maxie and Teo wanted to shout out. Shout out Maxie and Teo. You guys.
Hello. There you go.
Maxie and
Teo. Hey, Maxie and Teo. Hope you stuck around.
Hi, Brendan, Maxie, and Teo. Thanks for joining us.
Hope you didn't have to stick around for the whole thing if you didn't want to, just to see your shout out.
Talking boring, lame politics and stuff.
They're probably playing Minecraft or something.
So, and welcome our new friends who joined us tonight. And it was awesome to have you. It was great to see our friends from the food bank in Millbrook. The reality is that we do get to make a difference in this world, and on so many different things. The reality is you can throw a dart at a dartboard and hit an issue that needs attention. And whether or not maybe every issue isn't going to get 55,000 subscribers on Reddit, but at the end of the day, the reality is that you are going to have a chance to make a difference. And so I hope folks at home and watching this throughout the week really are able to recognize that one action can create ripples, that can create waves, that can create change. And I've been witness to it in my life dozens of times. And Emily, you and your crew have I think you've hit the ripples stage now, right? And let's see if May brings some waves. And yeah. And I want to give a shout out to Bubba in Newfoundland. I want to thank Bubba for their sharing tonight and participating. It's always great when we have new folks participate. And yeah, we generally close, Emily, with some final words. Do you have final thoughts or message for anyone?
Nothing. I think the biggest thing is just, remember that you're part of a community, and the issues that you're facing, you're not alone in. And there are so many people around you who are probably ready to support you in whatever way they can. So, be involved in the community as best as you can.
Awesome. Thank you. Mr. Gugu?
I would just reiterate what Lana said and just raise you up, you and your community up, and just keep doing what you guys are doing, and keep bringing voices to the ones who can't really be heard. And I really appreciate it, Wallen. So, and yeah, I lift you up, Wallen. And thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. And yeah, hope everyone has a good week.
Yeah, and it's going to be a great week. And just a reminder to all our friends, just and new and old, is that you seriously matter to us. Brendan and I get to do this every Sunday night at 7:00, and we really selfishly do it for ourselves, right? Like it's about keeping our own brains healthy and straight, and having that connection so that we are healthy for the week, as healthy as we can be, that we can deal with the challenges that exist in our lives and work and communities and families. And so yeah, so you matter, and it matters that you're here, and you are important. And the reality is that the title, letters, front, your names, doesn't shift anything, doesn't make someone more or less. You simply are just important, and you belong, and in this world and in this space, and certainly tonight in our circle. And so we're so glad to have had you, Emily, and your wee ones. I love the fact that your wee ones were loud, and because it is good medicine. Brennan said that at the beginning, and in our certainly worldview and the way we be together is it's essential for young ones to be with us in these big conversations, because it'll prep them and understand as they get older. So
and it keeps us humble too as adults, right? Keeps us
and remind us what's important. And so so everyone, hopefully, like me, if you haven't yet, make sure you run over to No Frills and get $1.25 soda. I also may have bought a bag of cheap chips, and I was going to eat them, the PC President's Choice chips. I was going to eat them on the show. I thought that'd be fun.
Oh, that's foul.
I
We were
would-
like, are you Galen? Like, were you paid by Galen to bring me here?
I just thought that was a fun little ending ad. But yeah, if you have the ability, make sure you keep your money in your pocket. And this is you have grocery stores if you can in your community. Brennan put the link to that wonderful website. And support your local food banks this month, folks. Whether it's $5, $10, $1,000, do what you can to be able to do that. Support local as best as you can, and yeah, I think those are all the steps of how we address these challenges. We each do our own little bit, and hopefully, collectively, the magic happens. Thank you very much, Corey. It was great to see that you stayed awake the whole time. You're absolutely.
You still got that top fan badge?
I don't see it there tonight, but I'm looking at a different screen right now, so I'm not sure. But he and Lana can fight it out. Yeah, so ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you next Sunday. If you were new to us, why not stop by next Sunday and see who's going to come walk with us then? And until then, we will see you. Bama P, my friends.
Long the motos.
Thank you, Jim.